My name is Dag Duberg. I work with sustainability on a flooring company called Tarkett. We are a big company. We're one of the biggest flooring companies in the world. But in relation to the topic I will talk about, we're just really small thing. I will talk about our planet. And we're just a tiny part of our planet. But maybe we are a mosquito. We want to be a small mosquito. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Yes. This is our home. This is where we are. This is actually the first photo ever taken of our planet from a distance. It was taken in 1968 on one of the Apollo tours. It's called Earthrise because it's the Earth rising over the horizon of the moon. It's said to be one of the most important photos in human history. And when it was the first time that we on Earth actually saw our own home from a distance. It created a lot of very strong feelings on people. It does it on me as well, even if you Google the Earth and you see millions of photos like this, but this was the first time. And when I look on this, I see it's beautiful. I think it's maybe the only blue planet in space, I don't know. It's a beautiful color. My other reflection is that we are all alone. There's just this tiny little ball floating around in space, and we have nothing around us. It's just black. And this means that everything that we need to live a life, we need to get from this planet. All the food we want to eat, all the materials we want to build houses or schools or cars or phones or whatever. We need to get that from this planet. And the only place we can actually throw away the garbage is on this place. So it's really a closed system. And it's the only planet we have. So the question is one planet enough? This is a graph showing the number of people on this planet for the last 12,000 years. And as you see, most of the time there have been some kind of human civilization where there were not a lot of people. But right now, basically during the time where we, and a couple of generations back, we are in a situation that humanity has never ever experienced before. It's a dramatic increase of the number of people on the planet. This could also be a graph showing the amount of resources that we used or the amount of energy that we used. And it's quite clear that we are putting the world and our civilization under some severe stress. And the answer to this question is one planet enough? Is unfortunately no. Not the way we live today and the way we plan to live. There's something called Earth Overshoot Day. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's normally in the newspapers around, end of summer. And it's a calculation done where you basically say that, well, to be able to live a sustainable life on this planet, we can use a certain amount of resources, minerals, and fuel, and things like that. And we can use a certain amount of it every year, and it will kind of reproduce, or we kind of living on a normal pace, so we can have a long perspective for the planet. So it's kind of a budget that we can use. But the sad thing is that we're overusing the budget. We're actually out of our annual resources right now, somewhere in August. It's like a battery. It starts every year fully charged, and we're using a bit of it more and more for every month. And actually, somewhere around here, well, we're out of that. And there's no more power in the battery. We're out of the yearly budget for resources. So what we're doing from here and these rest couple of months, we're actually using the budget of the next year, or actually the budget or the resources of the coming generations. And one more worrying thing is that there's an organization doing these calculations every year. They've been doing it for quite a few decades back. The more worrying thing is that this Earth Overshoot Day, when we're kind of used up all the resources that we should use during a year to have a sustainable life. Well, in the 1970s, well, it was somewhere around New Year, so we were kind of on track when it came to resources. But basically for every year, we've been better and better, or worse and worse. I don't have 5 minutes left. Okay, I need to hurry up. Okay, so basically we would need like 2 planets, and we don't have that. And this is a global average. So we're like if the global average of this Earth overshoot thing, depending on what kind of life we live, we are more or less fast on using up the resources. So the average is around here. We got countries like Qatar up here. We have Indonesia down there. Where do you think Estonia is? Are you worse or better than the world average? Yes. If everyone lived like you do in Lithuania, well, you kind of used up your budget in end of March. I'm from Sweden, we're not that much better. And I say the problem is that most people on this planet would need more resources or more things. I mean, we use resources to produce things, cars and houses and things like that. Most people on the planet actually need more things. We don't need more things. We, basically, people in Lithuania, Europe, United States, a couple of other countries, we are 20% of the population of the planet. We are using 80% of the resources. And the other 80%, they have this tiny pizza slice of 20% to share between them. And most of those 80%, they probably need a bit better place to stay at. Made some more stuff to maybe somewhere to prepare their food, maybe a decent place where their kids can go to school and so on. But we don't need that. And one of the main problems with the Western world is that we produce so many things that we don't use. How many of you have a car, private car at home? Is only 5? No, you all have a car. Is there anyone that have 2 cars in the family? Okay. The average private car in a European home is used 31 minutes per day. So 23 hours and 29 minutes, it's only 2 tons of metal and plastic standing in your garage or on the street. And to produce something of 2 tons of metal and plastic, well, it needs a lot of resources. And to get these resources, we create a lot of carbon emissions. So basically, we could be 48 people sharing 1 car. We have it 30 minutes each. But we all think that we need one. We need 1 each, and it should stay on the street and do nothing good for 23 hours and 30 minutes. Do you have a drilling machine at home to drill holes in the wall? Bzzz. No one has a drilling machine at home in Lithuania? Yes, everyone has one. Anyone have 2? Men, all the men raise your hand, you have 2 or 3. The average drilling machine, which is also like a kilo of plastic and metal and stuff, and to produce and get those raw materials creates a lot of carbon emissions and uses up the world's resources. It's on average used 15 minutes during its whole lifetime for drilling. So we produce too many things that we're not using. A building, how much is actually a building used? Like a school or an office like this? How many percent during his life is it actually used? I'd say somewhere around 30–40%. I mean, no one is here at night. It's closed during weekends, vacations, and so on. So maybe we should also see on how we can use buildings more efficiently. Buildings is a huge amount of concrete, which is horrible when it comes to carbon footprint. Steel, plastic details. So this is something we need to look into. 5 minutes left. Okay, I have so much more to talk about. Anyway, and I talked about carbon footprint. Well, I explained that there's no doubt that we have an increasing warming of the planet. This is due to the carbon emissions that we emit. And much of that, of course, we drive cars and do things like that, but much of what comes from the machines that we use to produce the raw materials. And I sometimes do this check. There is a website where I look on the state of the planet. This is the CO2 level, 419 ppm, the Earth average temperature, the sea level, Arctic ice, 30% has disappeared since 1979. 87% are actually fossil fuels in the world. Actually, this slide is from last year. I was in Lithuania, so I did a new one last week. Have a look at these numbers and that number. So this is from last week. And part of it is because we're better on calculating, but basically all the numbers are going in the wrong direction. So we need to stay under this 1.5 degree increase. We have already had a 1.4. This means that we cannot warm up the globe more than 1.5 degrees. And to be able to do that, we need to stop emit carbon dioxide. And we're emitting a lot. To be able to, if we want to stop and make sure that we have only 1.5 degree increase, we need to stop emitting CO2. If we keep on the way we do it, we have 5 years, 95 days, 13 hours, and a few minutes. And then we need to completely stop anything that emits carbon. And that's stupid to work that way, so we need to start doing things now. A quick thing about these 1.5 degrees. What is that? I mean, it would be nice if it was like a few degrees warmer in Vilnius today, wouldn't it? So what's the difference between 1.5 and 2 and so on? The scientists do a couple of different scenarios. This is basically where we will end up if all the countries do what they've said that they should do and keep that. If they don't really do that, we will end up here around 4 degrees. This is the Paris Agreement. This is the 1.5, and this is the 2.2 degree target. If we get these 1.4, paradise, ideal, but super difficult scenario, what would the planet look like? Well, this is according to the United Nations and World Wildlife Fund. If we have 1.5 degrees, if you like to go scuba diving in the Barrier Reef outside Australia to look at these beautiful fishes and colors and so on, you can forget it, because all the barrier reefs, most of them will be gone. We will have even more problems with floods, water shortage. 1/2 degree extra means that, well, all coral reefs will be gone forever. We will have a huge amount of wildfires. Probably 30% of the world's species risk to be extinct. All ice on the Arctic will melt during the summer, which has another effect, because if there's no ice there, it will be black water instead of white ice, and the white reflects the sun, while the black water doesn't reflect the sun. So we'll have even more global warming. 3 to 4 degrees, this will probably be in Saint-Tropez or southern part of Spain where you go on vacation. Basically, southern Europe will be turned into desert. There's an increase of these tipping points. New York will be under knee-high water. So this is stressful, isn't it? So I want to try to go from this huge perspective, and I want you to be stressed, and you should be stressed. I want to give a tiny piece of hope. I mean, we are the tiny little mosquito. We're just into floors. What can we do? Or you're just into schools. What can you do? Well, we need to try to do something, all of us. I don't have the fantastic super solution. I think we need to do things as private citizens. We need to do things in our jobs. Our companies need to do things, and our governments need to do things. But we need to take this super serious. Is there a way forward? And well, I'm not a pastor, and I don't have the solution to everything, but at least what we're trying to do, I'm in a business where we produce floors. We think it's a useful product, but we need to do it smart. So if you could save resources and reduce carbon emissions at the same time, and this is kind of the idea of circular economy. Just one picture or a few slides, not talking about floors, but this is how we in our company emit carbon dioxide in the different life stages. And this is quite typical for a lot of products. It's not the factory where we produce the floors or you produce the mobile phones or the cars that is the big problem. It's the raw materials. To get the metals or the oil for plastic or whatever, that's the big emissions. And also here in Europe and some parts of the world, the end of life, when things are incinerated, they burn, it creates CO2. So what is the most important things to attack if we want to reduce our carbon footprint? Well, for us, it's less raw materials, virgin raw materials, and less things going to incineration or going to end of life. So on a PowerPoint, it's simple. You just draw an arrow like that. What we do is basically make sure that we take the waste flooring, put it back here, and replace the virgin raw materials. Something like that. Make sure that things are used as much as possible, as long as possible. We saw some great examples of reuse and sharing and so on. So even if the actual situation is tough, we need to all be mosquitoes here and do what we can as private persons, as school managers, or as politicians. So let's have a hopeful future. Thank you.